Hello and welcome. Today I'm talking about pornography, but I'm happy to say, grateful, proud that I am 4 years on NoFap. No pornography, no masturbation. This is something I am unbelievably, I can't believe it. I live my life now. Some people say to me, what's it like to live without this thing that I'm battling? And I say, well, pornography for me is in the category of smoking, right? I'm not that guy. I just don't do it. I'm so disassociated from the habit. And I feel strange thinking that way because I look back and I was so associated with the thing. I mean, I was watching pornography for 12 plus years of my life. It was just my normal. It was my habit. It was my escape. It was masking. I was able to go to pornography to mask my, lack of self-worth or affection, or if I was feeling lonely, or if I didn't want to approach that beautiful woman, I can just fall back on pornography. So this was something for me. This was the biggest dragon, I feel like, for me to overcome, because I didn't realize this had a big hold over me, a strong hold over me, until I actually attempted to stop doing the thing. And how I discovered NoFap was this community of males on YouTube who talked about the benefits of this is what happened when I stopped watching. Life became more enriching, and my relationships, the quality enhanced, and my social anxiety lessened, and I don't feel so irritable or restless, or I'm more disciplined now, and I view myself as a stronger, healthier person. I was like, oh my God, this just clicked with me. At first I was resistant. When I saw these videos, I was laughing. I was like, my God, like, these people are crazy. These men are crazy. How can you live without it? It's like, I need it. And so I stopped watching the videos with that resistance, but the seed was planted because I was on this journey of self-fulfillment, or I was exploring a better life to live at the time, because I was going through anxiety recovery. I was becoming more disciplined. My mind was stepping out of its comfort, conservative way. And so the seed that was planted from these men, it grew, because the more disciplined in other areas I became, the more I looked up porn and be like, okay, there's that thing. There's that dragon under the carpet. What is that thing? I need to explore it. I need to pick it apart. Is this something that I just can't stop doing? And so I attempted one day to stop watching it, and then I realized, man, I'm going back to it. It seems like it's unconscious. I'm automated. So having this community of males around actually fueled my desire to walk down this recovery path from pornography. And so how I feel now is that if you are currently battling something that you just don't seem to have a control over, surround yourself with those people, because I'm here to say I am so grateful of these other people who have walked down this tough path. I wouldn't have done it without them. Their knowledge, their wisdom and being a part of a community, talking to other people about my struggles, how this thing is greater than myself, was unbelievably enlightening and healing for me, because it's really, what was the addiction really doing for me, right? What was it doing? What was the reward it was providing me? Like I was saying, it was providing me with a distraction, with a temporary numbing from the lack of self-worth, from viewing myself as a weak person, from the lack of attention. And I mean, it was really just a numbing agent for me. And it served as a refusal for real responsibility, which I do want to touch on later in this video. But with the absence of porn, I noticed that the fog around me started to lift. It's like somebody who goes and gets LASIK eye surgery and they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe I was living life the way I was living before." And that's a great metaphor, right? You just don't know this other way of living until you actually get rid of the thing, right? Until you actually step outside of your comfort zone. So that's why stepping outside of what's familiar all the time, you discover so many interesting things about yourself and new ways of being. So when I was failing and going days without porn. I don't like to use the word failing because I like to use the word attempts. You know, these attempts at going porn free. I love that word because it's, you know, it's not really a failures are like orientation mechanisms. They're actually great learning tools, right? Failure is great learning tools. So my attempts at pornography freedom was very enriching and eye-opening because, like I said, I didn't have much control over my desire to actually go back, and even my actions. You know, I realized that there were many triggers around my environment that were leading me unconsciously back into the addiction when I was alone, when I was, especially, I think that was the number one thing, when I was alone. And then I noticed when I removed pornography, there would be this gap, this space. And in that space, all of my discomfort would come up. My irritability, my restlessness. And I'll be like, what do I do with this open space? And that's a really difficult thing to contend with. And that's what strengthens your mind as well. You view yourself as a stronger person because within that space, you have to adopt another whole new routine or way of being in the world. So for me, it was like the gym, or it was breathing exercises, or it would be a cold shower, or it would be meditation, or a walk outside. I noticed that I had to completely change my map and my functioning as a person, and that is a big journey in and of itself. But when I say all of these discomforts come up, I'm talking about I was very insecure. I had had no meaning in my life, so I was facing that meaninglessness when I would be absent of all of these distractions. I saw myself in the mirror as this weak, naive person, and I never overcame any real adversity. So this journey of recovery from pornography addiction was this voluntary venture into adversity, and I did feel the withdrawals of not having pornography around and in my life. I felt very irritable. I felt insecure even more. It was like the light was shining more on all of the stuff I was repressing, because I was spending much of my 20s just blocking out responsibility. Literally, I would drive in my car, blast like crazy music, then I would jump from the music, then I would jump to caffeine, and then I would jump to sugar, and then I would jump to a negative friend, and then weed, and then some alcohol, and then jump to movie. My whole existence was living in this blind pleasure island state, and that, when looking back at that, it made me into a weak person, because you just can't help but walk in front of the mirror and go, oh, okay, well, I'm just not living up to potential. Or you come into contact with somebody who's very disciplined and successful, and that brings out your own insecurities, and you go, oh my God, yeah, I could do more with my life. It's the yearning, it's that longing to do more. And so when I would watch porn, the thing is that I would get this hit of dopamine, and dopamine is this reward chemical that just, it gets you, right? And the reason why this is so powerful is that it makes you want to get that thing that produced the dopamine again. So it served our ancestors, because we would go hunt an animal. We would get the dopamine kick of hunting and killing the animal and giving it to the community, right? And so dopamine is like this progression signaling. It feels good to kill and to kill the animal and to provide our tribe with food, but what is porn really doing to you and me that made me feel like I was progressing in some way? And the answer is, I didn't feel like I was progressing anywhere, because after I'd watched the porn video, I would feel a sense of lack. I'd feel like it was like a waste of time. It didn't serve me in the long run. It didn't provide me with any real progression. I mean, education, gym, sacrificing certain things like negative friends, and certain foods, that is real progression, because we hold on to the rewards longer. The rewards of pornography, for me, it was just short-lived. It seemed like I couldn't hold on to it, like it was water flowing through my hands. I couldn't grasp it. I just needed to keep doing it. It's like I was always thirsty and I was never satiated. But so then I looked at porn and I was like, okay, this is not serving my higher self. There's no real progression anywhere, because after I'm done watching it, I'm still in the same state. I'm not very well educated. I feel very weak and insecure. And it's like, those are the roots that I needed to tackle, rather than these temporary numbing agents. And so the reward of pornography did not feel rightfully earned to me. It did not. I felt that shallow, hollow feeling after each watch. And I felt like it was a cheap way to escape reality as well. The more you entertain fantasy, the more you disconnect from reality. And I was living out that Peter Pan lifestyle. Peter Pan had this fairy, Tinkerbell, in his imagination that he would rather entertain rather than the real woman, Wendy. Right? Tinkerbell is this imaginary, provocative little fairy. Pornography, for me, was this imaginative, unrealistic fantasy. It wasn't the real thing. A real relationship requires you to face their insecurities, then their inadequacies. You got to deal with their bad breath. You got to deal with their lack of makeup, their imperfections. We are imperfect creatures. We don't look like, when we wake up in the morning, like those women and men in those videos that we goggle and yearn for on the internet. We're real people with imperfections. We're not going to look like that. And so life isn't perfect, right? So with the absence of porn, I'm able to deal with those imperfections in a very real way. I'm more stimulated because my oxytocin isn't as repressed as it used to be because of the pornography. Now I'm able to bond more with real people, and the quality is unbelievably enhanced compared to when I used to numb myself with these artificial stimuli. They're not real, right? So for me, sacrificing pornography was like sacrificing Tinkerbell, right? Like I'm going for Wendy here. Wendy is my best bet because with her, that's real responsibility. That's where meaning is going to come in. I have to wrestle through this real relationship rather than, taking the easy way out. And pornography was that easy way out. So with the absence of pornography, I realize that there is no fallback to unconsciousness or fallback to that easy way. And for me, my standard is no pornography. That's my standard. And with that standard, the only route for real connection is to actually go physically to the coffee shop and have that conversation, to have that conversation with my fiance, to be intimate with that real person, to deal with the grappling of life's complications. I don't have a fallback. It's like marriage, right? Like I view marriage as this thing where if you're single and you're just dating somebody, sorry, that's not being single. I mean, if you're dating somebody and you're not married, it feels like there's an escape, right? You can just leave. But with marriage, it's more like, no, there's no leaving here. I have to contend with the problem. I have to confront that problem. Because if I don't confront the problem, I mean, there's going to be, another 20, 30, 40 years of this wrestling. It's like, no, we got to solve the problem. We can easily escape the problem if your standard is pornography, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to approach that beautiful woman. I can just fall back into this fantasy world on my computer. It's like if you sever that connection, then it's like you have no choice but to contend with that real world problem. And by doing that, you actually develop as a person and you have real change within you rather than just having no change, right? Like you want to have this long lasting change. And that's where that change occurs, is contending with reality. And that's where I want to leave you in today's video. Thank you everybody so much. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you everybody who I look up to and who is following that NoFap lifestyle. I am so grateful to have that content in my life, to have it available on YouTube, for me to go to whenever I was struggling with my recovery. Rise above anxiety. I will see you on the next video. Bye for now. Make sure to leave your comments below, subscribe so that you'll be the first to know whenever I release a new video, and rise above anxiety. I'll see you next time.